Of all the vehicles in science fiction, possibly the most captivating category for me is the dropship. Something about flying straight into enemy lines with nerves of steel and a belly full of troopers puts lightning in my veins. So today, we're going to talk about the only dropship manufactured by INCOM, the UT-60D U-Wing. So grab your gear, strap in, and blast Fortunate Son, because this ride stops for no one. The UT-60D was developed during a dark time for the galaxy, and an especially dark time for INCOM. The company had fallen a long way since the Clone Wars, where once they were made rich by massive starfighter contracts with the Republic Navy, now they had nothing. All the good contracts were taken by their rival, Sinar Fleet Systems, and INCOM was left to scrape the bottom of the planetary defense barrel. They were still making small sales of the Z-95, sure, but overall the company was on the verge of failure. To try and solve this, INCOM poured a ton of resources into the development of a next-generation starfighter, the X-Wing, but that wasn't their only play. INCOM also decided to make a bid for the troop transport market, using many of the technologies they were developing for the X-Wing to simultaneously create a new, high-speed troop dropship for the Imperial Army. Unfortunately for them, by the time INCOM's newest creation was ready for testing, the Empire had already gone with the TIE Reaper to fill this role, once again shutting INCOM out from Imperial contracts. INCOM tried to recover some of their losses by creating a civilian version of the U-Wing, the UT-45, and by marketing their armed dropship as a fast, durable, small transport for Imperial senators. None of this would end up mattering for INCOM though, as soon after the Empire nationalized the company as part of a massive reorganization and consolidation effort targeting the galactic defense industry. INCOM didn't take this nationalization lying down, and while I've already covered their main attempt to stick it to the Empire in our video covering the manufacturer as a whole, the U-Wing got a chance to shine here too, because it just so happened that a large shipment of U-Wings was sent to the Imperial Senate for evaluation just as INCOM's rebellion was taking place. And thanks to the interference of Bail Organa doctoring a few Senate records, those U-Wings just so happened to find their way into the hands of the Rebel Alliance. The transport would go on to achieve great things in Rebel service, being the transport of choice for Rebel operatives, guerrilla groups, and assault infantry squads. The only limiting factor for the craft was the small numbers it was available in, and while the Rebels did open up their own secret factory lines thanks to INCOM's defectors, the limited resources of the Alliance meant that the U-Wing would remain in small numbers until the end of the Galactic Civil War. That didn't mean it didn't see a lot of action though. On the contrary, it saw a ton. The U-Wing was rather unique, in that it was somewhat a hybrid between starfighter and dropship, with some of the characteristics of each. For instance, the U-Wing had a two-seater cockpit with tandem controls, meaning the craft could be operated with either a pilot and co-pilot, or by only a single pilot, albeit with reduced efficiency. It also sported armor similar in strength to the X-Wing, as well as a relatively strong shield and a pair of tame and back laser cannons. These qualities allowed the U-Wing to function adequately as a starfighter, but the U-Wing also possessed a passenger compartment capable of transporting 8 troopers and their equipment fairly comfortably, as well as side-mounted doors, excellent repulsor lifts that provided an excellent hover mode, and often door-mounted repeating blasters to provide close fire support. Additionally, the U-Wing could be fitted with a high-powered jamming system, capable of blinding all Imperial sensors and communication links in a relatively small radius, allowing the U-Wing to slip by either undetected, or at least while being much more difficult to lock onto. This versatility allowed the U-Wing to fill multiple roles in the Rebel Alliance's roster. It served as both their primary dropship and as their primary support starfighter, where it used its jamming systems to disrupt enemy fighter squadrons and its drop bay to carry resupply drones, turrets, or mines. This required a mild modification to the craft, but the results were excellent. This is the role the U-Wing served in with Vanguard Squadron, as they defended Nadiri dockyards and the secretive Project Starhawk from Imperial forces during the early years of the New Republic. Of course, the U-Wing is not the only notable dropship in the Star Wars galaxy, nor is it the most famous, and while we will be covering everybody's favorite in a full video later, for now let's just do a small comparison between the U-Wing and its biggest competitor. To start, the U-Wing is considerably faster and more maneuverable than the LAAT, both in space and in atmosphere, thanks to the U-Wing's 4 massive engines. The Rebel ship also possessed its own hyperdrive, allowing it to transit interstellar distances without use of a carrier, something the LAAT could not do. Plus, the U-Wing had shields, with a fairly high degree of durability too, while the LAAT was entirely unshielded. But that's where the advantages end. The LAAT had a much larger troop capacity, carrying 30 troopers at once, while the U-Wing could only manage 8. It could also carry light tanks, or in one of its specialist configurations, heavy tanks. Additionally, the LAAT was insanely heavily armed, particularly in comparison to the U-Wing, which only had 2 forward laser cannons and 2 door-mounted infantry-grade repeating blaster cannons. Still, while the LAAT is clearly the better dedicated dropship, and we will be talking about it later because how could we not, the U-Wing was the better option for the Rebel Alliance. Its durability, speed, and independent hyperdrive allowed the Rebels to engage in their favorite hit-and-run tactics with far more security than any other dropship would have allowed. And when the inevitable swarm of Imperial TIEs showed up to take out the Rebel transports, they would have a good chance of being able to defend themselves. The U-Wing was not a perfect ship, by any means, but its unique combination of abilities and well-rounded nature meant it was always capable no matter what situation it found itself in, and that is exactly the kind of flexibility that Rebels need. This has been yet another episode of College of Lore, and I hope you've enjoyed watching. Like I've said before, we have every intention of covering every ship in the Star Wars galaxy eventually, but that kind of thing takes time. So if you have a ship you want to hear about now, let us know in the comment section down below. The louder you all are, the more it helps our videos with the algorithm, so we genuinely thank you for engaging. And while you're down there commenting, consider leaving us a like or subscribing. Every piece of engagement helps after all, and we really do want to make this our whole job, so we need everything we can get. So, until next time, I have been Austin, and thank you very much for watching.